$5,500 to start, $5.5 million to start it. Good start.
It's 1994, and we're watching an auction in a sales room at Christie's in Manhattan.
19,500,000, next bid is 20. 20 million.
On sale is a one-of-a-kind Leonardo da Vinci manuscript known as the Codex Hammer.
25 million. At 25 million in this room.
Now, the audience in the room doesn't know this, but a representative for Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates is bidding on the phone.
At $28 million, it's away from the room now and on the telephone at $28 million.
Gates is up against a group from a bank in Milan that's sitting in the front of the room.
On the telephone in this room at $28 million. Last call.
And in the end,
thank you.
The manuscript goes to Gates. Back in November 1994, Bill Gates was 39 years old and had just appeared atop our Forbes 400 ranking of the richest Americans. And Gates, who is a big lover of books, sort of goes out and gets the ultimate book, a Leonardo da Vinci manuscript that he buys for $28 million, which comes out to $30.8 million with auction closing fees. The manuscript today is known as the Codex Leicester, named for the British Earl whose estate owned it for more than 250 years. It's a collection of Da Vinci's writings and illustrations, mostly focused on his study of water. According to the provenance in the auction catalog, a few Italian artists owned the Codex after Da Vinci's death, including a painter named Giuseppe Gezzi, who apparently sold it in 1717 to Thomas Cook, a man who eventually became England's Earl of Leicester. It stayed with the Earl of Leicester's estate until 1980 when it finally went up for auction. Oil tycoon Armand Hammer bought it that year, and 14 years later, Gates bought it at another auction. It's the only one of Da Vinci's notebooks that's still in private hands today. There are about 360 illustrations inside these pages, and the text is done in Da Vinci's signature, what's called mirror writing, that is, he wrote backwards. One other thing to note is that the original version that Gates owns is not bound like my copy here. While at one time it was bound by another owner centuries later, that binding has since been removed, and today each page is held in plexiglass. So how much is the Codex worth today?
So art is one of the toughest things that we have to value for our list because the value is just so subjective. It's really worth what somebody will pay for it, and you never know when a billionaire is going to just be very moved by a piece and pay an amount of money that you couldn't even imagine something might have been worth to get that piece. So you just really never know what something is going to go for until it hits the auction block.
Books have value for their rarity, for their importance to history or literature if it's a work of fiction, the first appearance of something. So once we've decided that the book is worth looking at for its condition, for its provenance, the first question we're asking, but we're going to ask it again, is what are we actually looking at? If it's a first edition of Moby Dick, that's a great thing to have. Then we look at the condition, and we base the condition on what's in our hand and how you look at a book that's 150, 170 years old.
Darren shared with us some of the important qualities that make books valuable, things like condition and rarity, but he told us that he wasn't a Da Vinci or Codex expert and was hesitant to put a value on it out of the gate. So next, we decided to try talking with some experts who were more familiar with old masters' works and Da Vinci.
My name is Robert Simon. I'm an art dealer in New York. I work as well as an art appraiser, and my background is as an art historian.
In 1993, Robert Simon was hired by the trustees of the Armand Hammer Museum to do an appraisal of the Codex Leicester, back when it was known as the Codex Hammer. You may have heard of Robert Simon before because he and a colleague bought the Salvator Mundi in 2005 for just over $1,000 in a Louisiana auction.
My feeling was that the Codex was quite a bit more valuable than any single drawing would be. So that was kind of the basic first principle. What by Leonardo can we compare it with? And then how do we rationalize the difference in the kind of object it is and its size?
He also pulled together works of art that he found it to be similar to. Those included other drawings by Da Vinci, one by Michelangelo, and one painting by another Renaissance artist named Pontormo. Ultimately, Simon decided that the Codex's value was $50 million in 1993. So it's difficult to get much better than someone who has already appraised the work of art that we're trying to value. But just to be safe, we also contacted some other Da Vinci and rare book experts and scholars who we thought might know the work well too. Everyone spoke with the caveat that we could never really know what the Codex is worth until it actually goes up for auction.
So in the end, we decided to take the average of all the recommendations we got from our expert sources. Everyone agreed, like Robert Simon said, that were it to go up for auction today, it would not draw more than the Salvator Mundi, which sold for $450 million. A Da Vinci painting is much rarer than Da Vinci's words and sketches.
He spent much more time as a writer, a scientist, draftsman than he did as a painter. And so you've got the painting itself is much more a rare object.
But no one thought it was still worth the $30.8 million Gates paid for it.
We decided to take the average of every expert's opinion, which worked out to about $130 million. This means the Codex is certainly one of the world's most valuable pieces of art. But it makes up about 0.1% of Bill Gates' $134 billion fortune. According to a CNBC report, the median net worth of someone who is 65 years old, which is Gates' age, is about $266,000. So, Gates buying Leonardo da Vinci's notebook is the equivalent of a typical 65-year-old splurging on a new iPad. Billionaires just live in a different world.